So how do we launch that Kali virtual machine in 2022? Hey guys, it's WJ Pierce for Cybergraded, and today we're going to be looking at exactly how we do that. Okay, so we should be good to go. The first thing we need to do is navigate over to our browser of choice, and we need to download a hypervisor. So a hypervisor basically just allows you to launch virtual machines in a virtual environment instead of running them on the bare metal. It means we can open Kali and close Kali, or open Parrot, or even open any Linux distribution or an old version of Windows as we please without having to actually boot into it on our bare metal hard drive. So my hypervisor of choice is Virtualbox. There's Virtualbox, there's VMware. That's actually the only two I know. But I tend to use Virtualbox. It's what I used when I was a student, and I've just kind of carried on the habit. I think VMware tends to be sort of an enterprise level thing. So again, Virtualbox, but feel free to use VMware. So I'm on a Windows one, so I want to just click on Windows hosts. That's going to download. It's going to take you through a setup process. I'm not going to make you watch me hit next, install a bunch of times. I'm sure you know how to do that if you're using a PC, but you want to install Virtualbox basically. We then come over to get our Kali ISO. Now, as I've just said, we're going to be using Virtualbox, 64-bit Windows, which anything Windows 10 and above, I'm sure is 64-bit if you're following along with this tutorial. So you can use the torrent, or we can have a look at the docs if we want, but we just want to hit download. Once we've downloaded that, we want to keep it somewhere safe. So I've just kept it on my desktop, the safest place that I can think of. We then come to our Virtualbox software, open it. So you'll be faced with a screen like this. Now, you won't have these two virtual machines at the side. These are ones I've played with earlier and pre-configured. And that's what's going to be in the next video. I'm basically going to show you how to set up your Kali box, and in the next video I'm going to show you how to do the initial update, make yourself a user, set yourself up with a VPN, download some tools that you might need, and then in the third part of this video I'm going to go over those tools and sort of my favorite Kali tools that I use. So, but again, this first part is just installing, so you don't need to worry about these. You'll probably be faced with a blank screen. We can then hit new, and we want to call it Kali VM Cybergrade. We can then choose where to store it. So I'm just choosing, I've made a folder earlier called Virtualbox VMs. We can then come to what type is it? Well, you can get all these types, but I'm going to choose Linux. We then want to come to version. Now, it's not got Kali listed here. It's not niche, but it's smaller than obviously a lot of these ones here. Closest one we're going to get to it is Debian 64. So we can hit next. I tend to give mine about 8,000 here. That just basically means 8 gig of RAM. I guess it depends on sort of what hardware you're running, but 8,000 will do. Hit next. We can then click create a virtual hard disk now. So we just want to leave this as is basically. It's the most straightforward way to do it. You can play around with these, but for your first time, I recommend leaving it on default for this part. We can hit create. Again, leave it on here, VDI, that's fine for this purposes. Dynamically allocated basically means that if you run out of storage on your Kali virtual machine, we can give some more to it from our host machine. If it's a fixed size, it's not going to let us do that. So if you really get into Kali and you start downloading past word lists and other really big pieces of software, I've seen some Metasploit plugins take up at least a couple of gig. So it's best to leave it dynamically allocated. That means we're not having to kind of preempt what we're going to be doing on it. So we can hit next. I tend to give mine about 32. Just depends how much space you've got again. And we can hit create. We then want to hit settings because there's a couple of things we want to configure. So the first one is in general, advanced, and we want to come over to shared clipboard. Hit bidirectional basically means we can copy and paste from our Windows host into the Kali virtual machine, which is really handy if you've got like a tutorial on your Windows host for how to do something like a hack the box or something like that, and then we can paste it back into the virtual machine. Drag and drop, exactly the same, but with files. If you've downloaded maybe a bit of malware that you want to research, we can drag that straight in and start researching it within the Kali virtual machine. So we can hit drag and drop, bidirectional. Everything else is totally fine here. Come over to system. We want to go to processor, change this to 4. Again, this is going to depend on your host hardware. I tend to give mine 4. It doesn't really matter. 1 is totally fine if you're running like an older laptop or something like that. But obviously for this tutorial, I kind of want it to be as fast as possible so you guys don't get bored. So 4 is going to be good. Display. Now this is something I tend to leave until I'm actually in the virtual machine. Obviously, every monitor is different. This is 27-inch, 144 hertz. It's not 4K, but it might look a little bit different if you try and preempt what your monitor resolution is going to look like when we're actually in the virtual machine. So, final step, we want to hit storage. We then want to hit this little blue disk here, and we want to hit this blue disk up here, and we want to hit Kali Linux ISO. Now, this might not be here for you, so what you want to do is you want to go choose a disk file, and then you'll see it on your desktop. This one here is what I downloaded earlier. Just click that one. As I said, mine's already pre-populated. So we can hit OK. And now we can just double click it, and with any luck, it should boot up. It's pretty quick, this Kali installation as well. You think you'd be surprised. So you can hit enter. Have a sip of my Starbucks. And that's it. It's ridiculously fast. Obviously, you're going to want to launch a terminal and do a bit of a sudo update. But I'll show you how to do all that in the next one. So stick around for part 2, guys. This is just how we initially launched our Kali VirtualBox in 2022. Thank you.